Bateman Resources Limited is a gold exploration company with significant projects in British Columbia, Saskatchewan, and the Yukon. Trading on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ABN, and the pink symbol ABN-AF. Surrounded by world-class gold deposits and mines, Bateman's 23,000 hectares Forest Kerr Gold Project is located in the heart of the Golden Triangle in northwestern BC. For more information, visit us at batemanresources.com.
Welcome to the Goddard Report. Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. Welcome back to the show, Jordan.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
The BC government piggybacking their policy against the Kinder Morgan pipeline, along with the lawsuits launched by some Aboriginal groups. Is this just politics being played out because they promise to be against it, but they don't really expect it to be effective?
Oh, I don't know. I think they hope to be effective. I think they would very much like to kill this project. Certainly it would be good for their coalition with the Green Party. The Green Party increasingly wanting some sort of pelt for the wall, so to speak, some sort of tangible victory for throwing in with the NDP in the first place. May not get it on Site C. NDP can't really take credit for LNG since they blame it on market forces, but maybe Kinder Morgan is that trophy that they want so badly. So my sense is George Heyman is a true believer, the new Minister of Environment and Climate Change for the BC NDP government. He has always hated Kinder Morgan's plan. He hates oil pipelines. He philosophically believes that oil and gas should remain in the ground, untouched, untapped. And so I think he's a militant on this file.
How big of a blow would it be to the BC economy not to have the pipeline built?
Well, it's crushing. We have to look at this in the broader context, first of all. So, Petronas recently pulled out of the Pacific Northwest LNG project. That would have been a $36 billion investment, billion with a B, private investment into British Columbia. Thousands of construction jobs, hundreds of ongoing jobs, thousands of spin-off jobs, big-time royalties, taxes, all sorts of things going to government to fund the important things like schools and hospitals. So we've already lost that. Now we're talking about another $8 billion in private investment. And Jim, this is really the key message here. This is money from outside British Columbia that would have come into BC and found its way into the pockets of, BC workers, BC companies, BC tax coffers. This isn't money that we're spending. Site C Dam, which obviously I'm a big supporter of. Site C Dam is money, paid for by British Columbians for a product for British Columbians. So, this is actually outside money coming in and would be a significant economic boost. And it's one of the big, tragedies in the Petronas decision is, look, there's no one else lining up to bring $36 billion into British Columbia. You can bet that if Trans Mountain, after getting its permit, after managing to flip Justin Trudeau, change Justin Trudeau's mind, if they don't get the ability to build, you can bet that no one else is going to come in and try to clean up that mess and do it. We're in an era where private investment is really being chilled out of British Columbia.
I was just going to ask, does this set a tone for private enterprise?
Well, just common sense says, yeah, absolutely. I mean, for Trans Mountain, think of all the work they went through. I mean, years of consultation, tens of thousands of points of contact with just First Nations folks across the province, let alone all the municipalities and other stakeholders. Hundreds, thousands of pages of environmental studies and reviews. They went through the National Energy Board, 29 months of hearings across the country. They ended up with a federal Liberal government who, had people who ran steadfastly opposed to building that pipeline. Jody Wilson-Raybould, Minister of Justice, opposed to it. Justin Trudeau basically promised the Dogwood Initiative that it would never be built. They managed to change their minds because it was such an important project. They picked up an NDP government in Alberta along the way, managed to change their minds on it. Rachel Notley's one of the most, passionate proponents of this pipeline. So, they did all this work, hundreds of conditions put on them. They finally get their permits, they finally get their approvals, and now, at the last second you have the provincial government flip-flopping and saying, no, that's not worth the paper it's written on. And so just common sense says, look, if you're looking at investing hundreds of millions to tens of billions of dollars, whatever the project is, into a province, why would you go a place where the permits, even if you do all of the legwork to get the social license, to get this thing built, why would you go to a place that could flip on a dime like British Columbia does? So that is the big chilling message that the NDP government's sending. They don't care, or they don't think they are, but absolutely they are. You're already seeing, if you have a plan to invest in British Columbia, you're looking elsewhere simply because you can't trust the government to live up to its word.
Is that something that business was concerned about going into the election and obviously now very concerned about?
Yeah, I think business was concerned about going to election. I know icba put out a lot on the NDP platform and the Green Party platform, comparing it to the BC Liberals. We do icba. We do a construction monitor. So quarterly, we put out a newsletter looking at big construction projects and trends. Our latest one just came out, and we have 4 big projects listed: Site C Clean Energy, Trans Mountain Pipeline, Pacific Northwest LNG, and George Massey Tunnel. We've been updating our people on this for years, working to get them to yes. And all 4 of them are either canceled or imperiled. Site C, it's under a new review. Trans Mountain, they're using every tool to stop it. The Pacific Northwest LNG has been canceled, and the George Massey bridge is basically hanging by a thread at this point. Pretty bad times, pretty concerning for business, and for groups like us who represent thousands of construction workers in the province, very concerned about where the next jobs are going to come from.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after the break.
I'm Larry Ray, President and CEO of American Manganese Inc., listed on the TSX Venture, ticker symbol AMY, A-M-Y, with proprietary patents in the U.S., China, and South Africa. Our focus is on recycling lithium-ion batteries for electric vehicles. China recently legislated the responsibility for recycling onto their electric vehicle manufacturers and importers. For more information, please visit AmericanManganeseInc.com or phone me, Larry Ray, at 778-574-4444.
Arctic Star Exploration, operated by a team of proven mine finders, is focused on diamonds in Finland and the Northwest Territories of Canada. A work program is planned for our Finland property that contains diamond-bearing kimberlite. Arctic Star trades on the TSX Venture Exchange, symbol ADD, and the Frankfurt Exchange, symbol 82A1. Please visit our website at arcticstar.ca or call us at 604-689-1799.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, do you have any idea who's going to be running for the BC Liberal Party?
Well, yeah. Well, the leadership race is just starting to take shape, and no one has come out and publicly announced yet. But it seems like there's kind of 5 main candidates who are putting together teams who are doing more than just kicking the tires. There are some candidates who've kind of come and gone. Ian Black, for example, head of the Board of Trade in Vancouver, he was running around doing meetings and talking about running, and then bowed out. One thing to remember, the Liberals haven't set the rules yet for this leadership campaign, so you'd be kind of foolish to jump in until you knew what the rules were, in case they penalize you in some way or give an opponent some sort of advantage. But, the 5 kind of contenders that we see, seem to be forming teams and moving ahead are 4 from the inside and 1 from the outside. So the 4 Liberal MLAs who are kind of looking at it right now very seriously are Andrew Wilkinson and Michael Lee, both of them from Vancouver, Todd Stone from Kamloops, and Steve Bernier from Dawson Creek. And then, of course, there's former Surrey Mayor, now a Conservative MP for South Surrey, Diane Watts. She seems to be the outside here candidate.
Well, Diane Watts would seem to be kind of a natural, very personable person, and somebody I haven't heard much negative comment about.
Yeah, not much negative comment about Diane. Certainly, though, negative comments about the city she used to manage. She was the mayor of Surrey. Very famously in her first term brought in a crime reduction plan. I think it's fair to say that was a disappointment. It's not borne the kind of fruit in Surrey that maybe people had hoped. There's a resistance internally, I think, in the BC Liberal caucus. Some folks who don't want an outsider coming in, and certainly don't want Diane. There would also be some challenges, right? Being a Conservative MP, it's obviously the BC Liberals are a coalition between the Conservatives and the federal Liberals. So there would be a bit of a discussion there. What kind of Conservative is she? Why did she decide to run with the Conservative Party? There would be questions around that. But yeah, as far as media goes and recognizability, certainly Diane would be right up there. Definitely a strong contender.
Any word on what Christy Clark is going to do now she's no longer premier?
No, actually, I noticed that I saw her Twitter. She tweeted out, I think for the first time post-premiership, a congratulations message to Brad Wall on his retirement, telling him that being a retired premier is even better than being a sitting premier. So clearly she's still kind of keeping tabs on the news. No, I'm told she's spending a lot of time with Hamish right now, her son. Obviously school starts in the fall, so like many parents, taking some time off, and it'll be very interesting to see what Christy Clark's next step is. I mean, Gordon Campbell kind of stepped right into that role as High Commissioner to the UK, essentially the Canadian ambassador to the United Kingdom. I'm not sure that same kind of opportunity is in the works for Christy Clark. Not sure what her relationship is like with the Trudeau Liberals. You'll recall Christy Clark during the lead up to the last campaign kind of very heavily tried to court the Conservative vote within her coalition. The BC Conservatives were an existential threat at that time to the Liberals. You'll even recall at one point she brought Preston Manning to the legislature and very famously kind of paraded him around the legislature and had Preston talk about Clark's conservative bona fides. So it'll be interesting to see just what kind of relationship she has with the Trudeau Liberals, who seem to be a natural fit, or who people look to kind of put former premiers into good appointments.
Who do you think out of these five might have the best shot if you just had those five running?
Well, I think right now Andrew Wilkinson's organization is the furthest along. They all have strengths, they all have weaknesses. Wilkinson is a guy who, we all think of as being pretty Vancouver-centric. He was a lawyer and a doctor. In an era of populism, does a 1%er from the west side really resonate? At the same time, people don't realize that he was a doctor in logging camps. He spent a lot of time in rural British Columbia there, so he has a better passing knowledge than most. Mike Bernier on the flip side, Dawson Creek, rural guy, probably the most conservative candidate in the race. Everyone just kind of likes Mike. Like no one ever has a bad word to say with Mike. He actually got along with the BC Teachers Federation as education minister. Now he's falling on the heels of Peter Fassbender, which is a pretty low bar to cross as far as getting along with the BCTF, but certainly did better there. So he'll have some support, but he's basically unknown in the Lower Mainland, much like Todd Stone. Todd Stone was a pretty bright, shiny contender when first elected. He really struggled on the TransLink file, struggled on the Uber file, struggled on the ferries file. Not sure if he can overcome all that, but we'll see. And then Michael Lee, I think his big challenge is people don't know him very well. First term MLA, he's only been an MLA for a few weeks. Frankly, I follow this pretty closely and hadn't really thought about him as a contender or thought about him, even in his MLA slot. So that'll be the challenge there. And then Diane, Diane hasn't been a member of the Liberal Party, is my understanding. Never been a member of the BC Liberals. Certainly on that side of the spectrum, probably voted that way. But, it's not the public that votes, and certainly not the media that votes on this. It's the BC Liberal members, so she'll have to sign up members, and she'll also have to woo some of the existing ones.
Yes, and being a Conservative MP, maybe she's happy with that job.
She could be, very well be. I think that when she ran, maybe she, like every candidate does, you have illusions of being in cabinet and certainly being, a well-regarded mayor from the second largest city in British Columbia. She would have been in very good stead to be in a Stephen Harper cabinet. That didn't materialize. Opposition kind of sucks. Certainly opposition in Ottawa sucks because, it's one thing to be the opposition leader of the BC Liberals when you have 43 of the 87 seats. As big an opposition as possible, and certainly some resources, and it's a bit of a smaller pool. When you're the opposition leader in Ottawa, or you're in opposition in Ottawa, it's tough because You have a smaller percentage of 338 people, MPs. The media there is very much only concerned with what the government says. It's a long way to travel. Certainly we're not close. South Surrey is not close to Ottawa. So, she may be, she may have done it and realized she doesn't love it and want to come home.
We'll have more with Jordan Bateman right after this.
I'm Brian Fowler, president of Blind Creek Resources Limited, listed on the TSX Venture Exchange, ticker symbol BCK. Blind Creek is focused in the Yukon, Northwest Territories, and British Columbia. The company's key property is the Blend Project, one of the largest undeveloped lead-zinc-silver deposits in Western Canada, plus plans to advance the recently acquired, fully permitted historic Engineer Gold Mine in the Atlan District of Northwestern BC. Check us out at blindcreekresources.com.
In Goddard we trust.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Jordan Bateman. Jordan, how stable do you think the NDP Green government will be in the long run?
Well, I think they're going to get through the proportional representation vote, whatever that happens. Now, under the agreement, they want it to happen with the municipal, in conjunction with the municipal election next fall. If I were John Horgan, though, I would kind of start planting the seeds with Andrew Weaver, saying, look, it's not enough to have the referendum. You want to win this referendum. And the only way to win is to take the time necessary to educate the public and find the perfect system. We can't rush this, Andrew. You kind of sit him down. Maybe you could lay this foundation, have some mayors calling Andrew Weaver saying, hey, we don't want this in conjunction with the municipal election. It'll skew our turnout, it'll skew our numbers, blah, blah, blah. Doing that, could the NDP manage to convince the Greens to let them hold it a year later? And again, that would extend the life of that coalition. The Greens must get that proportional representation vote through because there's no guarantees that they can re-elect even these three. Furstenau didn't win by a landslide. Adam Olsen won, a fairly close three-way race. If it becomes an NDP Liberal battle as to who's going to form government, there's going to be a lot of pressure to collapse the Green vote. They need proportional representation. That's the only way they're going to exist for the long term and have the kind of clout that they've enjoyed so far in this particular session.
Well, they would still, even with proportional representation, be nowhere near forming a government.
No, but there's a big difference between having 4% of the seats and having 17% of the seats. And that would give them more clout and more ability to influence policy. And judging by what they've done with their clout so far, that certainly worries us at the icba. We don't see a lot of great political strategy or concern for the economic future. Certainly no concern whatsoever for the construction industry going forward.
Well, usually governments are pro-projects. They're real cheerleaders. This time we have a government that seems to be throwing water on every project they can see.
Well, they're always pro their own projects, right? I mean, the Liberals weren't pro fast ferries when they inherited that, and they certainly weren't pro Island Highway, and rightfully so. Those were fiscal boondoggles. But they're always pro their own projects, and the NDP will roll things out, daycare, other social spending that they'll end up trying to take a lot of credit for, and those will be the programs that they'll run on. The Liberals were more into building things. I do notice that the Transportation Minister, Claire Trevena, spending some time traveling basically from Kamloops to the border, the Alberta border on Highway 1. Looks like that they're going to continue ahead with expanding and improving Highway 1. That's good news, and certainly something the Liberals were also committed to. But, generally, they like their own projects, not the other guys.
And what projects do you think the NDP would jump into?
Well, they've talked about doing some hospital and school construction, so we're still waiting to see what the announcement will be on that. The problem is, if they cancel Site C, for example, Site C is $8.8 billion. Okay, that's a lot of construction jobs, a lot of economic spin-off. There's just no way to replace it with, schools and hospitals. You just can't do that much construction for those kind of smaller projects and replace the man hours and jobs and all the spin-off of that, let alone the fact that, we take our clean hydroelectric power for granted now. It wasn't always that way in British Columbia, right? Like, if it hadn't been for W.A.C. Bennett doing those dams and putting all this stuff in place, having the vision to do it, British Columbia's economy, our population, and our business community would not have been able to grow the way it has. So, you've got to put money into projects that actually continue to grow the economy and set a platform for other things to happen.
Have they talked about finally building the Broadway Corridor SkyTrain line?
Yeah, they've talked about that, but again, there's been no announcements on that. There's been no groundbreakings or anything. I think they're still waiting for the BC Liberals were waiting for the TransLink guys, the Metro Vancouver mayors, to come up with their 20% share. They haven't done that yet. So, one of the big promises that my wife reminded me of was last night we were paying our Trio bill. Why haven't they gotten rid of the tolls yet on the bridge? Very good question. They promised they would. Doesn't seem like it would be very hard to, just stop sending out bills. But, that's still going on. So, lots of issues that the NDP still have to get on.
Well, the Green Party's a big fan of tolls. They want tolls on everything.
Yeah, well, they want tolls on everything because they all live within, 3 or 10 or 15 square miles in southern Vancouver Island. They don't really care about, what Lower Mainlanders, and certainly they don't care about, what Fraser Valley people who vote BC Liberal think. So, easy for them to say when they wouldn't have to pay it.
Jordan, always fun chatting with you.
Hey, I appreciate it.
My guest has been Jordan Bateman, Communications Director for the Independent Contractors and Business Association. His website, icba.ca. You're listening to the Goddard Report. If you have any questions for the show or our guests, you can email us at info@howestreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard. Thanks for listening.
Comments made on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com are an expression of opinion only. The Goddard Report is available online and mobile at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. The Goddard Report is a production of Howe Street Media Incorporated.